The lights inside the ABC studio were bright, almost too bright. Everything looked perfect. The cameras, the polished table, the hosts in sharp outfits. It was just another day on The View, and the energy was set for a feel-good segment. Michael. B. Jordan had arrived 5 minutes earlier, calm and professional, dressed in a simple black suit. He was here to promote his new film, one about justice and community. But the real story, what the world would remember, was not the movie. From the start, the segment felt off. Joy Behar opened with jokes, easing into the conversation. Sunny Hostin smiled politely but watched Michael closely, like she was waiting for a cue no one else could hear. Michael talked about his upbringing, the role of art in activism, and why he believed young people needed heroes they could see themselves in. The crowd clapped warmly. Everything was normal until at WASN single quotes T. About 15 minutes into the segment. Sunny leaned forward. Her tone changed. "Michael," she said, "you speak a lot about community and justice, but many notice you're silent when it's inconvenient. Some would call that selective activism." The audience went quiet. Michael blinked. For a full second, he didn't move. Then he looked directly at her and said, in a calm voice, "I don't show up for hashtags. Sunny, I show up when it counts. I'm not here to make noise for attention. I'm here to make impact." It should have ended there, but Sunny pushed again. "But don't you think staying quiet at certain moments helps your brand more than your community?" Michael's posture didn't change, but his eyes did. Sharper now, slower breath. Like he had just realized this wasn't a conversation, it was a setup. "You don't know what I do when the cameras are off," Kay said. "You only know what your producers show you. That's not activism, that's editing." A few people in the crowd gasped. Joy Behar shifted uncomfortably. Whoopi looked off stage. The control room was tense. Producers whispered into headsets, asking if they should cut to commercial. But the director shook his head. Let it play out. Sunny wasn't done. If you're proud of your advocacy, why hide it? Silence can be complicity. Ha! Everything shifted. Michael leaned forward, elbows on the table. His voice dropped. Silence can also be protection. You don't know what it's like to carry certain weight and still be asked to smile for the camera. If being taken seriously means performing my pain, then maybe I'm in the wrong room. He reached down, unclipped his mic, stood up slowly, and walked off set. No yelling, no anger, just silence that hit harder than any shout. The audience sat frozen. The host stared at the empty chair. Then Joy finally said, "Well, we'll be right back." The screen cut to commercial. But it was too late. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Talk, Twitter, YouTube, millions of views remixed. Slowed down, subtitled. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Michael walked. Hashtag silence is power. Hashtag respect Michael. Some called Sunny bold. Others said she crossed the line. Most weren't talking about acting anymore. They were talking about control, about what happens when a black man refuses to follow the script. And then something strange happened. Inside the network's control room, a producer's screen flashed with a new email. No subject line. No sender. Name. Just a message. You didn't control him, now fix it. No one knew where it came from. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a viral moment. This was the beginning of something deeper. The clip of Michael walking off The View spread like wildfire across every social media platform. By midnight, it had reached over 40 million views. News anchors called it a cultural flashpoint. Celebrities chose sides. Activists debated it. And quietly, in back rooms of major networks, executives panicked. But inside the Manhattan studio, where it had all unfolded, the chaos was silent. The control room staff worked late, scrubbing the official footage, preparing a safer edit for the rerun. But one junior producer, Lena Ortiz, couldn't focus. She had worked on The View for 3 years, and she had never seen anything like this. Not the walk-off, not the tension, not the strange message that appeared minutes later. She stared at the email again. You didn't control him. Now fix it. No sender. No IP. Just black text on a blank screen. She tried deleting it. It reappeared. She forwarded it to IT. The file bounced. That night, curiosity got the better of her. She accessed the raw archive files of the episode, ones the public never sees. As she scanned the audio timeline, something strange caught her eye. A spike. 30 seconds before Sunny turned aggressive, there was a whisper on a separate track. Barely audible. Lena boosted the audio. She heard someone say, "Shift now, push hard." She blinked. Who had said it? It wasn't Sunny. It wasn't the control room. It wasn't anyone on the guest mics. But it came from the private channel producers used to communicate with hosts. That channel was secure. Or it was supposed to be. The next morning, Lena approached the lead producer, Marcus Hill. He was already on edge, dealing with media fallout. She brought up the mysterious voice. "You're imagining things," he said too quickly. "We were off script. That's all." "But who gave the order to shift?" she asked. Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a new assignment. Help edit the upcoming apology episode. Later that day, Lena received a second message. Not an email this time, a physical envelope in her office mailbox with no return address. Inside, a flash drive and a sticky note. "If you want answers, open the folder labeled Shadowcast." Against her better judgment, Lena opened the drive on her personal laptop at home. Inside were dozens of files, memos, voice instructions, scripts marked with timestamps. In one folder labeled Shadowcast_protocol, she clicked. It opened to reveal a document titled Targeted Persona Disruption Plan. Subject MB Jordan. She froze. The file was marked Confidential Lightframe Analytics. She read slowly. It was a behavior matrix, psychological profile, and scripted tension escalation. Plan designed around Michael B. Jordan. It broke down his communication patterns, pressure points, and media triggers. It even listed expected reactions to certain questions predicted with 87% confidence. Lena's hands trembled. The producers hadn't just gone off script. They had followed one. This wasn't journalism, it was orchestration. But the scariest part, this wasn't the only file. There were similar plans for other celebrities. Politicians, journalists, many of them Black, Latino, or vocal critics of the system. The names on the list shocked her. And at the bottom of each file was the same footer. Prepared for live trial deployment, Lightframe Media Dynamics, LLC. She'd heard of Lightframe, whispers of it. A data analytics firm with government ties, known for working with intelligence agencies during foreign elections. But what was it doing embedded in daytime television? Lena copied the drive. Then she encrypted it. Then she made a decision that would change everything. She contacted Malik Reyes. Malik was a former CNN journalist turned whistleblower. After exposing media corruption, he'd gone independent publishing on a secure newsletter followed by academics, watchdogs, and hackers. Lena sent him a single message. "I have something. It's bigger than Michael B. Jordan." Malik responded in minutes. "Meet me in Brooklyn. No phones. Bring the drive." Back at the View, Marcus Hill stood by a window overlooking Manhattan, watching as a car passed slowly outside. His phone buzzed with a secure call. "He's off the script," said a voice. "And now your producer is too." Marcus exhaled, long and slow. "What do you want me to do?" The voice was calm, cold. "Stop her before she opens the next folder." Outside, the clouds thickened. The viral moment was no longer about one man walking off a stage. It was about who had built the stage in the first place, and what they were hiding behind the lights. The cafe in Brooklyn was small, quiet, and tucked between a pawn shop and an old bookstore. Rain tapped gently against the windows as Lena Ortiz stepped inside, clutching a messenger bag that held the flash drive now wrapped tightly in aluminum foil and hidden beneath a worn paperback novel. She spotted Malik Reyes near the back, sipping black coffee, eyes constantly flicking between the door and his laptop. "You're late," he said without looking up. "I took the long route. Someone followed me." Now he looked up. His eyes weren't fearful, they were trained. "Tired?" He gestured for her to sit. "What you saw on that drive," she began, voice low, "is only part of it." Malik opened his laptop. "Let's find." Out he slid the drive into a secure port and began reading through the lightframe files. Lena watched as his face changed, tightening as he scanned the targeted persona disruption plans, nodding grimly at the live trial deployment notes, and finally whispering, "They built entire algorithms to break people on air in real time." He stopped at one folder, Project Vox Cycle. Inside were transcripts of prior interviews, not just Michael B. Jordan's, but Meghan Markle's, Prince Harry's, Brad Pitt, even sitting senators and whistleblowers. Each came with reaction graphs, keyword impact charts, social media forecast, predictions. "These weren't interviews," Malik muttered. "They were simulations." Lena swallowed hard. "We've all been watching digital experiments and calling them talk shows." Malik pulled out a small device and crushed it in his hand. "What was that?" she asked. "A locator," he replied, "just in case. They're probably tracking the signal of that drive." He looked up at her. "We need to move." "Free." Blocks away, a man in a silver SUV turned off his engine. He tapped his earpiece. Visual on Ortiz and Reyes confirmed. "Orders." A voice crackled back. "Do not engage. Let them make the next move. We want the full leak to trace their network." By nightfall, Malik and Lena had retreated to a warehouse studio used by independent media crews. It was hidden beneath the skeleton of a failed VR startup. The electricity flickered, but it was off-grid safe enough. They started uploading the files to a private server Malik controlled through a digital anonymity shield called Obsidian Loop. As the progress bar climbed, Lena finally asked, "Why Michael? Why now?" Malik nodded toward the screen. "'Cause he wasn't supposed to walk out. He was supposed to break." She frowned. "They wanted him to explode on air." "No," Malik said. "They wanted to edit him exploding. To sell it. Control. The narrative, he ruined it by walking away calmly." That broke the pattern. Lena clicked on the last folder. Stage 4. Counter control. It was chilling. A list of actions to take in case a subject broke the script. Discredit, leak, damaging rumors divide, frame them as unstable or ungrateful distract, release unrelated scandals to drown headlines, disable, threaten producers. Cancel appearances, apply legal pressure. Lena turned pale. That's exactly what they're doing to him already. Look at the coverage. Some are calling him dangerous, egotistical, even anti-American. Malik leaned back. Stage 4. On schedule. Just then, his phone buzzed. Only 2 people had that encrypted number. He answered. A woman's voice spoke, trembling. "Malik. My name's Eliza Ward. I work at Lightframe. They're planning another disruption. Next week, bigger. Not just one celebrity. They're targeting a senator. Live debate. They're going to corner her with a doctored leak." "Who?" The line went dead. Lena and Malik exchanged glances. He stood. "We leak now. No more waiting." At 3 a.m., a headline appeared on an anonymous news blog known only to deep state journalists and cyberwatchers. "Breaking hidden system exposed behind daytime. Talk shows leaked files reveal psychological operations on air." Malik had published everything. Within hours, the story was mirrored globally. European watchdogs picked it up. Hashtags swarmed again. Hashtag the script is real. Hashtag Michael was right. Hashtag light from Alex. But it wasn't over. Back in the ABC studio, Marcus Hill sat alone in his office, watching the feed. A new message appeared on his private screen. Damage acknowledged. Stage 5. Correction. Below it, an image auto-loaded. It was Lena. Target confirmed, and with that, the war behind the screens escalated. Rain hammered the windows of the independent studio as Lena stared at the screen. watching the story go viral in real time. Major platforms hesitated to touch it at first, but once smaller outlets started citing the evidence, digital wildfire spread. The files were undeniable. Screenshots of pre-written emotional pivot points, diagrams of celebrity breakdowns, keyword test scripts used during so-called interviews, graphs comparing engagement spikes from confrontations versus calm answers. Each document chipped away at what viewers believed was real TV. The public didn't just gasp. They rioted online, but with the exposure came a terrifying consequence. Lena's personal accounts were flooded. Her phone pinged nonstop. Her landlord called to say two insurance inspectors were snooping around her apartment. And then there was the white SUV parked across the street for hours. Correction stage, Malik muttered. They were now being hunted by people whose job wasn't to prove anything, it was to erase everything. In London, a Guardian journalist named Callum Wright received an encrypted email from Malik. The subject line, Lightframe, Phase 2. Inside, proof that Lightframe's operations extended beyond U.S. talk shows. Included were internal memos linking the firm to psychological warfare campaigns during election cycles in Europe, disinformation drills in Africa, and reputation targeting contracts from royal family advisors. Callum replied instantly, "We'll publish, but I need verification." Meanwhile, Malik and Lena went dark. They moved to a secure safe house owned by one of Malik's old contacts in investigative journalism. The place was a converted radio tower on the edge of Long Island. No Wi-Fi, no smart devices. It's just a shortwave radio and an old CRT TV picking up analog news. Lena sat by the window, flipping through a thick folder of names. "This list," she whispered. They were all interview guests over the past 6 months. Michael B. Jordan, Meghan Markle, Harry, even foreign diplomats, tech CEOs, and ex-NSA analysts. This was never about entertainment, Malik said. It was about influence, control, and collapse. They both froze when the analog TV flickered and an emergency alert banner appeared. But it wasn't from the government. It was a message from a pirate broadcast. "You've seen the footage. Now ask who wrote the script. #Shadowcast is real." The signal cut. Back in New York, Sunny Hostin sat in her dressing room, unaware that everything she said during Michael's interview had been scripted by Lightframe and cued into her teleprompter only moments before airtime. She had started to feel it something unnatural about the rhythm, the pressure in her ear, the way producers had insisted she probe deeper that day. She finally called her agent. "I need out. Something was wrong that day. I think I was used." But her phone beeped with another incoming call. Unknown number. She picked up. A modulated voice spoke. "You were never the interviewer. You were the weapon." Click. Meanwhile, Lena received a tip from Eliza Ward. The whistleblower inside Lightframe. Encrypted message only. They're targeting the senator next week. Live broadcast. CNN primetime town hall. Subject, Senator Talia Greene. Lena gasped. "Greene's pushing the data privacy bill." Malik stood up. "Of course. It frightens their entire business model." Lightframe didn't just manipulate public perception, they sold it to the highest bidder. The data they harvested during these emotional disruptions trained AI models for ad targeting, election influence, even defense contractors. Senator Greene had introduced legislation to regulate algorithmic manipulation on broadcast television, so they planned to destroy her credibility live. They moved fast. Lena arranged a back-channel meeting with Senator Greene's chief of staff. It wasn't easy, security was tight, and they didn't trust unknown journalists. But Lena had proof, real documents, real names. Inside a guarded SUV, she handed over a second flash drive. "Senator Greene has to cancel the town hall," Lena said, "or at least not go in blind. They're setting her up." The aide nodded grimly. "We've had pressure from every side not to cancel." "We didn't know why until now," Lena added. "Tell her what they did to Michael was a dress rehearsal." That night, a video went live from Michael B. Jordan's verified page, unfiltered. No studio, just him, sitting in a dark room staring into the camera. I walked out because I saw the trap, not just for me. For all of us. The truth isn't welcome on those stages. But I won't stay silent anymore. It racked up 80 million views overnight. Lightframe stock quietly plummeted. And somewhere, a top executive issued the order. Time for containment. We moved to blackout. But Lena wasn't finished. She was about to uncover why the firm existed. In the first place, and whose hand was really pulling the strings. The email came just after midnight. Subject line, Deeproot sender, unknown. Lena clicked it hesitantly. Malik stood behind her, arms folded, watching the flickering monitor. Inside the message was a single sentence. Lightframe was never. The root only, the branch. Look for Project Deeproot Langley, 2013. Attached was a heavily redacted PDF. Half the text was blacked out. But the header was clear. Classified Office of Psychological Operations, Joint US-UK Initiative. Lena turned pale. This goes deeper than media manipulation. Malik leaned in. This is black budget Psywar. And suddenly everything made sense. Lightframe wasn't just a private company working for ratings. It had been seeded years ago by Western intelligence to build systems of emotional shaping. First, for foreign influence campaigns. Then, as the line between civilian and combatant blurred, turned inward. On their own populations. What started as psychological testing during the Arab Spring was now shaping celebrity interviews in Times Square. This wasn't television. It was a weapon. Meanwhile, Senator Talia Greene had disappeared from public view. Her scheduled CNN town hall was abruptly postponed due to scheduling conflicts. But her press secretary sent Lena a private note. We believe you. She's seen the files. That same day, one of Lightframe's co-founders, a media tech magnate named Ezra Carr, was subpoenaed by the Senate Intelligence Committee. Carr, known for his billionaire charisma and connections to both Hollywood and Washington, hadn't appeared publicly in weeks. Malik pulled up Carr's background. He was a DoD contractor before launching Lightframe Behavioral Analysis Division. Lena stared at the screen. He built this system. Then came the second leak. A whistleblower from inside the View. Another. Anonymous producer sent a voice memo to a secure Dropbox. Michael wasn't the first. We've been using trigger scripts for years. Celebrities, politicians even. Author Sunny had no idea she was reading AI-generated prompts that day. They were testing a new layer-adaptive phrasing. They call it Project Echo Frame. The goal is instant viral escalation. Lena's heart pounded. It wasn't just about manipulation. It was about scaling emotional chaos into something profitable and controllable. But Lightframe wasn't going. Quietly. Suddenly, news anchors on 3 major networks began discrediting the leaks. Old footage of Malik was resurfaced. Out-of-context quotes, blurry photos. Whispers that Lena had once worked for a foreign journalist collective tied to misinformation networks. Malik slammed his fist on the desk. They're flipping the script, making us the threat. The studio door rattled. Both froze. No knock. Just pressure. Malik grabbed the hard drive and slipped it into a hollowed-out book. Lena grabbed the burner laptop and smashed it against the floor, shattering it completely. A voice came through the door. Lena Ortiz. Federal agents. We have a warrant. But the badge held against the glass didn't match any real department. Malik saw it instantly a fake. They were corporate security cleaners. Back exit. Now, he whispered. The night swallowed them as they escaped. Down an alley behind the studio, the rain had returned, heavy and cold, and the city buzzed with emergency alerts. Social unrest, another market drop, and a trending video of a celebrity caught in an alleged scandal planted. Of course, everything was noise. But Lena knew what mattered. We have to find Carr. Ezra Carr, she said. If we expose him directly, the whole thing cracks. No proxy leaks, no anonymous blogs. We bring him down live. Malik stared at her. You want to put him on camera? No, Lena said. I want to put us on camera with him. Truth versus the machine. One unedited broadcast. The world watching. Malik hesitated, then nodded. Then we better get to San Francisco. That's where Carr is hiding. Cross the country, inside a fortress-like estate in Palo Alto. Ezra Carr stood in front of a massive LED screen wall, watching everything. Unfold Michael's video, the leaks, Lena's rising popularity. He sipped his scotch and smiled. To think. We built it to control chaos. And now, it is the chaos. One of his aides approached. Sir, they're moving. Ortiz and Reyes. They're coming for you. Carr turned to him slowly. Let them, he said. We always plan for a final show. And then he turned back to the screen, where a clip of Michael B. Jordan's walk-off replayed on loop. Frozen at the exact frame where truth met silence, the war wasn't over. It was just entering its most dangerous phase. A dense fog blanketed the San Francisco Bay as Lena and Malik approached. The gates of CareTech, front-facing tech company masking Ezra Carr's true empire. It was sleek, glassy, and surrounded by private security forces dressed to blend in with Silicon Valley's casual elite. But Lena wasn't here to sneak in. She was here to make noise. Inside her coat, she carried a hidden transmitter. It wasn't powerful, but it would be enough to broadcast a live signal to a decentralized network Malik had quietly set up with activist coders across the country. They had one shot to go live, confront Carr on camera, and expose what Lightframe and Deeproot had become securities watching the front, Malik whispered. But the signal relay needs rooftop clearance. I'll buy you 5 minutes. No, Lena replied. We do this together. But before they could move, a black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. 2 men in suits stepped out, one holding a tablet, the other a badge. Lena Ortiz. The taller one asked. Lena froze. Her first instinct was to run, but the tablet screen showed her own face and the words, Authorized Media Conduit, Emergency Provision 412. We're not here to stop you, the man added. We're from Public Integrity. Watch. You've got a signal. We'll amplify it. Malik stepped forward. Why now? The agent's voice dropped. 'Cause you're not the only ones who know what Carr's built. And because if you don't act today, tomorrow, the world changes for the two. Worse. Inside Carr's fortress-like command center, the mood was different. His analysts scrambled as the independent feed from Lena and Malik's transmission began broadcasting, cross-mesh networks and peer-to-peer nodes, bypassing traditional platforms. Within minutes, over 40 million people were tuned in. From Brazil to Berlin, the world was watching. Carr knew they couldn't cut it. So instead, he welcomed it. He appeared on screen from his own studio, seated at a black desk, flanked by digital screens showing emotional response graphs in real time. He smiled as the camera panned to him. Double quotes Lena. Malik, welcome to transparency, he said. You want the truth? Let's give them the truth. Lena didn't blink. You built a system to manipulate how people feel, not to inform them. Not to educate them, but to steer them. Lightframe was the front, Deeproot was the root. Carr leaned forward, unbothered. We didn't manipulate emotions. We measured them. The public gave us the data. All we did was interpret what they already wanted. Malik cut in. You created moments of collapse. You engineered confrontations. Michael B. Jordan, Meghan Markle, Prince Harry. You fed scripts to hosts to provoke them, and then sold the fallout to governments and corporations. Carr's smile faded slightly. That's your narrative, Lena pressed harder. You sold those reaction models to regimes. We have the files. We know about the Eastern European rollouts, the African misinformation campaigns, the defamation, projects disguised as interviews. Silence? The chat feeds were exploding. Viewers around the world were reposting every word. The hashtags had returned: hashtag scripted rage, hashtag digital control, hashtag lightframe exposed. Then Carr said something no one expected. Of course we did. Malik stiffened. You admit it? Carr leaned back. 'Cause it doesn't matter anymore. This world runs on signals: what trends, what loops, what outrages. Governments, tech companies, journalists, everyone already plays the game. I just perfected it. Lena's voice cracked with emotion. You weaponized human trust. Carr shrugged. It was already broken. I simply gave it a market. And then Malik did the one thing Carr hadn't anticipated. He flipped the signal routing. Their broadcast split into thousands of community-run channels simultaneously. Paired with a downloadable archive, every internal memo, every script, every leaked file they'd collected available to the public in real time. Carr's eyes widened. You're not just talking, Malik said. You're ending it. Carr stood up. This was never about you. You think you can unplug people from the system now? It's too late. Lena faced the camera. Maybe, but at least now they know who's been holding the wires. Night, the broadcast was replayed by citizen journalists, mirror channels, and underground networks. Mainstream platforms tried to suppress it, but it was too late. Ezra Carr was summoned to testify before a global media ethics tribunal. The View announced a full internal audit, Sonny. Hostin released a statement revealing she'd never seen the final interview script and was now suing Lightframe's parent company, Senator Talia Greene. Reintroduced the Digital Integrity Act with bipartisan support, and Michael B. Jordan. He posted one sentence. Real strength is walking out, but real power is walking others through. Lena and Malik didn't become celebrities. They went quiet again, choosing to work on legislation and media transparency from behind the scenes. But for one moment, they had cracked the screen wide open, and the world saw what was on the other side. The courtroom was quiet, eerily so, 3 weeks after the global broadcast. Ezra Carr stood before the International Digital Ethics Tribunal in The Hague. The room was a blend of old-world marble and bleeding-edge technology. Holographic displays floated overhead, showing evidence from whistleblowers, reconstructed interview scripts, and heat maps of global emotional manipulation traced directly to Lightframe servers. Lena sat in the gallery beside Malik, watching every moment. They weren't the ones speaking anymore, others had picked up their flame. Journalists, activists, lawmakers, victims. And yet, Carr remained calm. I created a mirror, he told the judges. If the world didn't like what it saw, maybe the problem isn't the glass. There were gasps, even among hardened diplomats. The prosecution responded with chilling clarity. They showed footage of a destabilized African election where voters had been swayed through fake emotional stories pushed via influencers pre-fed by Lightframe scripts. They showed a woman in Turkey who took her life after being publicly ambushed in a talk show produced using echo frame triggers. They showed the list of U.S. senators whose reputations were quietly destroyed through calculated viral moments. And finally, they showed Michael B. Jordan, his walk-off moment, juxtaposed with the AI prompt the host had been fed live through her earpiece. Mention performance activism. If he reacts defensively, pivot to silence as complicity. If anger escalates, cut to commercial in 3.5 seconds. Carr stared blankly. And yet he still walked out with dignity. He proved your point. Not mine, but no one was listening anymore. Back in New York, Lena entered her old newsroom. The lights had changed. The building buzzed with something unfamiliar hope. A giant poster hung near the studio entrance now. It read, "No more scripted outrage, only truth." Malik joined her. Talia Greene is drafting international media ethics guidelines. They're asking for public input. Lena raised an eyebrow. Let's give them something real. They sat in the editing room, opening the files they hadn't yet released. Secondary blacklists. psychological testing results on minority viewers and corporate sponsors who had benefited from viral conflict. Malik glanced at her. You sure? Once this goes out, we're targets again. Lena nodded. We already were. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, quiet meeting took place between Senator Green and leaders from Europe, Africa, and South America. They discussed a radical idea, a global emotional influence treaty, one that would regulate AI in media, ban covert narrative scripting, and hold networks accountable for provoked emotional trauma. It was the kind of conversation no one dared have 2 months ago. Now it was a movement, and in Los Angeles. An unexpected guest arrived at a small community center where a group of young students were performing a play on justice. Michael B. Jordan sat in the back row, unannounced. When the performance ended, a teenage girl spotted him and whispered, "You're the one who walked out." He smiled. "No," he replied. "I'm the one who finally spoke up." She handed him a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, "Thank you for walking out of the lie. Because now I know I don't have to stay quiet in mine." Michael folded the note carefully and slipped it into his jacket. The story didn't end in a single courtroom or on one TV show. It became something bigger, a reckoning that reached into every screen, studio, and script. Ezra Carr was sentenced to 25 years for digital crimes against public trust. Lightframe was dismantled. Deeproot was declassified. New independent networks rose from the ashes, and for the first time in years, millions of people felt something real. They were finally in control of the narrative. Not the algorithm, not the producers, not the silent hand behind the screen, the people. And that was the final twist Lightframe never saw coming.